Hello and welcome to Pickleball Therapy, the podcast dedicated to your pickleball improvement. Our focus is on your mind, on the pickleball mind. My name is Tony Roig. I'm your host of this weekly podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you. Just got back from the Atlanta PPA Tour event. Had the pleasure of commentating there. That was a lot of fun. And this week, heading out west to the San Clemente, the PPA finals are going to be in San Clemente, California. So looking forward to that. And in the riff, I'm going to share with you a takeaway that I had from the being able to sit courtside and watch all these amazing athletes perform. Give you a tip in terms of your play that you can take away from how the best in the game do it. Today's podcast, we are going to focus on a stronger body and mind through pickleball. This is a really powerful concept. It's ties together a lot of strings that we talk about, week in and week out. I think you're going to really appreciate it. And think about it this way, right? So, we often talk about doing this and that better in pickleball. Today, what we're going to focus on, we're going to pivot to is what we get, right? What we get as human beings by playing this amazing sport. And I think it's helpful to be reminded about how this sport can, positively impacts us, the specifics of it, as well as how it can impact others. And then at the end, I have an action item for you that I'm going to share, and hopefully you'll join me in this at the end. Before we get started, we have announced 2 new camps, one in New York City. The New York City camp is filling up pretty quick. There's only 16 spots in that camp. We have 4 courts. It's a really cool facility. It's in Gotham City. We're going to basically have the entire facility to ourselves, which is unusual for us to be able to, teach a camp alone in a facility. What I mean by that is noise control, all that, all is in our control, meaning obviously sometimes you got to teach while other players are playing, and that's fine. But sometimes the noise can be a thing, things like that. But in Gotham City, we have the 4 courts. They're all right next to each other, be very cozy. And we'll be in New York City. Love New York City. So join us for that one at the end of June. It also coincides with an MLP stop there. So if you want to check out some Major League Pickleball and come to camp, that'd be super cool. And then I've added a camp here in Tampa, also in June. So if you want to come over to Tampa, great facility, Pickle and Pint. We don't have the full facility for this, but I will tell you that when we teach the camp, for the most of the time in the camp, the facility is not not super used during that time frame because it's middle of the day. So we also have we know the folks at Pickle and Pint love the facility. So if you want to check out one of those camps, if it's your time for camp, highly recommend that you join us for one of those. I want to do a shout out here. Appreciate Linda for leaving this feedback a few months ago on the Pickleball Therapy podcast. And we always ask at the end of the podcast for you to rate and review the podcast. If you have a moment, it helps us reach other players. Obviously it's nice to hear from you and see how things are going and how the podcast, if it's working for you or not, if you have suggestions, any kind of feedback. But it definitely helps us reach other players. And I think that's key because if it helps you, maybe this podcast can help somebody else as well. So Linda was commenting on the one, episode 277, which is in and out for this year, which was back in January. Linda said, great summary reminders all in one place of things you've covered in previous podcasts. I've been doing these things in my games. And here's what I want you to take away. And they really make a difference in my mental confidence. Right. So, and then she also says, I'll bookmark this episode to refer back to. Thanks. 5 out of 5. Thank you, Linda. But the idea that it's going to make a difference on your mental confidence, I think is so powerful. Right. So appreciate that, Linda. And if you have a moment, please leave a review. That would be much appreciated to help us reach other players. Okay. So we're talking about what we get, right? A stronger body and a stronger mind. And a lot of times these podcasts, in case, you're curious, a lot of times the impetus, right, or the seed of the podcast comes from something I've read or experienced or seen. And this week, what happened was my neighbor, Mike, shout out to Mike for sharing this with me, brought over a copy of an article that he had read in the Wall Street Journal about pickleball and Parkinson's, right? Parkinson's, my grandfather suffered from Parkinson's. So I'm somewhat familiar with the disease, right? But it certainly, it seems to be a debilitating process for folks who have to navigate that, right? Because, you're used to operating a certain way in your life. And now you have this thing affecting you that's impeding your ability to enjoy life the way that you're accustomed to. And so what the article talked about, it talked about the interrelationship between, or not the interrelationship, benefits, right, of a person who has been diagnosed with Parkinson's engaging with pickleball. So they interviewed a player. There was a player who was very active in that process, right? They interviewed him and his feelings. Then they interviewed some neurologists and things like that about the benefits of it. So what I wanted to do was just kind of summarize some of the concepts in there, but I want to summarize those concepts, but also broaden them. And the reason I want to broaden them is because while certainly, listen, I think it's amazing, right? I think pickleball can be so helpful to folks in different, in all different areas, right? But what I wanted to do was broaden the ideas beyond Parkinson's, not because it's not helpful to folks with Parkinson's, of course it is, but because these concepts apply well beyond being diagnosed with a condition like Parkinson's, right? And so let's go through a few of the things that we gain from playing this sport, both from our body and from our mind. And if you're one of our students, you'll recognize this as the athletic pillar. We talk about everything in terms of 3 pillars of pickleball. The athletic pillar being the body and the mind, which from our estimation is one of the areas of pickleball that doesn't get the attention that it doesn't get its due. You see a lot of videos and information out there about this shot, that shot, this strategy, that strategy. Great, I mean that's fantastic. But if the benefits of pickleball and the things that will actually help you play better, the body and the mind is really where it's at. But anyway, so we're going to talk about that, the body and the mind. So I'll start with balance. One of the things that you gain in playing pickleball, which is noted in the article, is balance, right? You're making a lot of movements in a small space, right? So you're up at the non-volley zone line, or in the transition zone, or even at the baseline. You're having to move left to right. You're having to rebalance yourself with a split step, get into your ready position, hit the ball, then gather yourself again, then move, then gather yourself, then hit, then move, then gather yourself and hit, and move, and gather yourself. So it's a lot of work like that, right? In left to right, front to back. And so you gain a lot of balance benefits. And what's interesting about balance is, particularly as we get older, balance becomes more challenging. For us as we get older, it's just natural. And whether you have Parkinson's, don't have Parkinson's, right? You're going to have more difficulty with your balance. Playing pickleball will counteract that some, right? We'll delay those drops in your balance, and will help you even improve your balance in pickleball. Now, one thing that I would note about balance in pickleball is pay attention to it. What I mean by that is, you can go out to the court and just kind of move around without really paying attention to your balance, or you can move more intentionally. For instance, in our camps, we teach the camp I mentioned earlier, New York camp, the Tampa camp, all our camps, Tahoe camp. We teach these footwork ideas, right, that help you move safely and efficiently, basically where you're moving laterally and then forward and then opening the door to move back. But all of those movements, we show you how to do it with more control, more intentionality, more focus, right, on your movement. The better you get at that, the more balanced you're going to be. But that's a benefit of pickleball. You gain body mobility. Okay, part of it's your footwork, of course. Your legs, your hips are moving, but also your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists. Right, as you swing the paddle, as you move your arms around to left to right and things like that. Your spinal column, right? All parts of your body are moving. So you're getting a lot of mobility from playing pickleball, and then. Obviously you get cardio. I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on cardio because I think we understand that you get cardio from running around. They did a study, it was a few years ago, but basically they compared tennis to pickleball, and they said, about the cardiovascular benefits or the aerobic benefits of the two sports. And tennis, they calculated that in tennis, in 1 hour of play, you get about 11 minutes of movement. Court's bigger, but you get 11 minutes. Pickleball, smaller court, but you get 22 minutes per hour, right? We play in a more confined space. We don't have to go pick up the ball so far. There's not a bunch of like first serve, second serve kind of a thing. So we play at a quicker pace. And also remember, one of the things about pickleball I think that's interesting is every single time you return serve, you're hustling up, right? You return serve, you're hustling up. So it's a lot of work in pickleball. So you're getting a lot of cardio as well. Let's talk about your mind now. So you get a lot of cognitive help, right? You get a lot of work with your brain. Think of, eye-hand coordination, right? You're recognizing a ball and reacting to it. Is it coming to the left, coming to the right, up, down, things like that. You're moving your body in sync with what's happening, right? So you see the ball going to the left, you're going to move your body to the left. So you get the mobility and the balance, but you also get the read, right? Your brain has to read what's happening and move your body according to what it's reading. And listen, it's a challenge, right? It's a very challenging thing for us to do. It's frankly, from what I've read, I really like this book, Move Your DNA. I don't have the author right now. I think it's either Kathy Bowman or Katie Bowman, something like that, but it's Move Your DNA. Really interesting book. Talks about how the body is the whole reason for your body is to move you so you can get food to feed your brain, which makes sense. So your body is and your mind work together to move you around the universe, right? And in pickleball, you're getting to do that very under stress, right? Because you're feeling some anxiety in the game normally, which is fine. And Billie Jean King said, stress, feeling pressure is good. It means you like the thing, it means you care, right? So that's fine. So you're feeling a little bit of pressure, a little bit of stress. Everything's heightened a little bit, and you're paying attention to what you're doing. We live in a very sedentary world these days. We drive cars. This morning I had lunch with my friend Tyson from the facility, and it was funny because there's a place that's literally right next to the facility. And so I chided him a little bit. He had a reason for doing it, but I was like, we had lunch and he was heading back to the courts and I had left my car there and I was like, did you drive over here? And I was like, man, that's so lazy. Again, just playing with him. But my point is we live fairly sedentary lifestyles. Or we drive everywhere. We sit around the house a lot, stuff like that. So pickleball gives us a way to get that mind-body connection with our movement, which is absolutely critical. And it's a lot of how we're designed. One other interesting fact I'll tell you here, and I don't remember the exact number, but I will tell you that, and feel free to check me on this. Your brain to foot connection, the nerves there are more than almost any other part of your body. So what that means is that the amount of feedback that you get from the bottom of your feet into your brain, telling it all sorts of conditions about the movement that you're undertaking, it's lights up when it has that feedback. One of the reasons I wear those, they call them barefoot shoes? They're just a little bit of rubber on the bottom just so you don't get cut out there. But basically I can feel every pebble out there to activate that. But that's something that you get playing pickleball, a lot of that movement to brain connection. So super powerful stuff. You're also solving puzzles as you play, right? I mean, that's the nature of the game. Yeah, you're anticipating. You're looking across saying, I think Sean is probably going to hit down the line because he likes a down the line shot. Actually, I should have used Scott's name there because Scott loves trying to burn me down the line. So whenever I see Scott, I'm like, he may be going down the line trying to burn me there. If I see my friend Larry, maybe it's a lob. If I see Tyson, I know it's going to be a nice soft shot into the non-volley zone. Might see my friend Tom, he might be charging in to try and attack with the backhand. So all of these things, right, that about your friends, about your opponents, you factor into what's happening to solve this puzzle, and you're watching the action, right? As you're playing, you're seeing where's the ball going, what's likely to happen next, and things like that. In fact, if you think of anticipation, I think anticipation is misunderstood. You see pro players and at senior pro and also young pros playing, and they seem to know what's going to happen next. It's not, they don't have a crystal ball, anything like that. What they have is they have a lot of experience on the court, and they have a good idea of if the ball goes here, the next ball is likely to go there, right? And so they're moving based on their expectation of where the ball might go, but that's just solving a puzzle ahead of time. That's what they're doing. You can do the same thing. Like I said, my guess, I gave away Scott, Larry, Tyson, and Tom right now, but I'll tell you, Jeff, for instance, is going to take his forehand, he's going to roll it, hard angle off the court, right? You know what players are going to do. So pay attention to your opponents, and that'll help you with that, but also helps you with that mind, with solving the puzzles. And then you get a social interaction. I thought this was really interesting. I didn't realize this until I read the Parkinson's article, but even calling out the score. Okay. Apparently when a person has Parkinson's, they'll start whispering. So they'll start really speaking, really low like this. And so, just simply calling the score out so your opponents can hear it has a positive benefit to you, which I never thought was a thing, but it's a thing. And then interacting with your partner, right? Both positive and negative, right? Just having that interaction with your partner, interaction with your opponents, maybe the alcohol dispute, whatever, as long as it doesn't get violent, those kind of things. Again, they're challenging you, they're pushing you, and they're helping your mind there. So, this is one of the beautiful things about pickleball is the canvas. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, this idea that pickleball is a canvas and you use this canvas to work on yourself, to paint a better version of yourself. And again, there's nothing wrong with learning strategies. There's nothing wrong with learning shots. They're part of our game. But why sleep on the biggest gift that pickleball has for you, which is allowing you to further develop your body and allow you to further develop your mind. So in further developing your body, for instance, like on the balance front, if you get better with your footwork and more intentional with your footwork, then your balance and mobility will be improved. If you, on the mind, if you get better, for instance, at like looking across the net and saying, oh, I see Tom. If Tom drops to me, he's probably charging in behind me. So I got to hit the next one soft. I can't punch it at him because he's going to kill me. Right. Then what that tells you, then now the brain's working those puzzle solving skills. Right. So there's a lot of work that you can do on the pickleball court. You may be doing some of it now, but I'm going to bet you that there's more for you to do. So I'm going to give you actually 2 action items here. One is test yourself. Is there something going on in the pickleball court that you could be doing, that you could be using more fully? What I mean by that is there an area of your body or your mind that right now you're leaving something on the side that you could be doing? If there is, let's do it. I gave you a couple of suggestions already, right? Your footwork, being more intentional, split stepping on your transitions, getting more into a ready position, right? Hunkering down a little bit. And then on the mind, pay attention to who you're playing against, right? What are their tendencies? If you don't know what their tendencies are, start paying attention, because you'll find them. And, it's a pattern game. We are pattern creatures. So that'll really help you. The other action item that I want to share with you, and I think this is really, really powerful, and we haven't done this in a minute, so I want to do it now. Guys and gals, let's share our sport with others. Let's share our sport with other people in our community, with your friends, with your family, but also with strangers. I was in I got a ride home from the airport a couple of days ago when I got back from Atlanta on a Lyft, chatting with a young man. We were just having conversation. Sounded to me like he was in maybe in a tough place mentally, right? Kind of like navigating some stuff. And so I asked him if he was doing anything physical, right? And he playing any sports and things like that. He was going to the gym, but he wasn't doing anything socially active, right? Socially, physically active, like pickleball. So I recommended pickleball. And unfortunately, I because of my travel schedule and my work, I have some knowledge of what's going on in my local community, but I'm not like plugged in, right? I'm not like always out there. So I put him in touch with another friend of mine, a local coach. And I said, hey, do you mind, guiding this young man into pickleball? And my friend said, absolutely. So I connected those two. And the reason I tell this to you is because I assure you that you come across folks every day. It can be at the coffee shop. It can be at the restaurant, the waitress at the restaurant, the waiter at the restaurant, the barista at the coffee shop, the driver of the taxi or the Uber, the DoorDash person, whatever. Engage the folks in pickleball. At least put it in front of them, right? So that they know what it is. They know how cool it is. And, points if you can point them in a direction. So if you live in a community, my guess is that there's 2 rec centers that have open play sometimes. Even if you don't know the times, right? You can find out, that'd be even better. But at least you can say, hey, you know what? The YMCA on, Main Street has pickleball. I think it's on Tuesdays, but if you call over there, they'll help you out. And here's how it works. And it's super welcoming and whatever. But let's be more proactive, right? In getting folks into pickleball, because I know that if you're listening to this podcast, pickleball is super important to you. This is not a casual pickleball player, podcast. Nobody listens to this casually. There's other podcasts for that, not this one. So think of how important it is to you and how much meaning it has to you. Let's get that to somebody else. All right, here's my the riff today. I want to give you a couple of things on the PPA. Again, I was able to do some commentary. I think commentating is the right word. I keep on saying it. I got to Google it to make sure I'm saying the right word. Well, I'm going to use it. So PPA commentating, and it was a blast. I got to do. It was either 2 days or 3 days. It was a kind of a blur, so I don't remember. I know I did the bronze medal matches. I think I did some quarters and some round of 16. I think Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. But fascinating matches to watch. I analyze them. In those matches, I always try and give some. Pointers, right? Some strategy pointers, and not just okay, so that's a great role and things like that. But maybe talk about okay, you see how the return of serve, between these 2 players is different. This player is returning deeper. See the problem the other one's having. Short return of serve getting killed. Stuff like that, right? That you can use. And I wanted to share one takeaway with you from my experience, which is even the pros struggle. Even the best, and these are the best pickleball players on the planet. Even these players have their own struggles on the court. It's not like, they've gotten to a certain level of play and they just step out on the court and everything is rosy for them and everything is fantastic and they're smiling all the time. They are challenged. They get upset. They get down on themselves. They get all of the things that happen to players at all levels of pickleball happen even to the pros. And so this idea that you're going to once I learn that shot, I'm going to feel better. Or once I learn that strategy, I'm going to feel better is nonsense. Absolute, total, utter nonsense, I should say. Utter nonsense. If you want to feel better about your pickleball and about how you play pickleball and all that, it is all up here in your mind. It's all up here in your brain. So focus on the mental side of the game. Focus on your perspective and your interaction with it. We have the book, Pickleball Therapy. The book that's out, Pickleball Therapy, the book is all about perspective. All about it. If you're not sure about your place in the game, and what I mean by that is, how you interact with the game in a positive way, and sometimes you get lost. I think the book's $27. If it's not worth $27 to figure that out, I don't know what to tell you. And the reason it's $27 is because it costs money to print these books. They print them on demand. So $27 to get a book. I think you can get, if you have a Kindle, it's included. We put it in Kindle Unlimited so you can read it. I put for free in quotes. I'm doing air quotes on the free because it's included in your Kindle thing, but no more money for it. So anyway, I highly recommend it to you if you're feeling lost in the game. And then last thing I wanted to mention is if you ever get to go to a PPA event, I cannot recommend it to you enough. I mean, we're still in a stage of the sport where you can I'm in Atlanta. I'm commentating, but I'm most of the area there is I'm in the same area as everybody, right? Which goes to the point. So even though I'm in theory I'm on the PPA media thing, working with them on media, I'm doing the commentary, whatever. I'm still in the same lounge as everybody. I'm still walking to the same areas. Means it's the same thing for the players too. Ben Johns is sitting right there. Anna Lee Waters coming through. Anna Bright's right there. The refs are coming through. The other players are coming through. There's Gabe Tardio. There's Kate Fahey. I mean, whatever. They're all hanging out, coming through. And you get to see the best pickleball you've ever seen in your life live. And it's way different live than it's on TV. Now, if you can't make it live, you can always check it out on Pickleball TV. And I think they also stream it on YouTube TV sometimes. So I'm going to be at the PPA San Clemente with Coach Kylene from the team. We're going to be there doing some commentary, doing some coaching of some of the players there. So really looking forward to that. We also have the camps out in San Diego. I think they're full up, maybe one spot left for a grad camp. I'm not 100% sure. If you're interested in the grad camp, check it with Kylene. Just send her an email, Kylene@betterpickleball.com if you are interested. But anyway, so that's what's coming up. PPA San Clemente. Check it out on Pickleball TV, or if you're going to be there, look for the orange cap. So that's this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. As always, if you haven't been to rate and review, as I mentioned earlier, please do that and share it with your friends, because if you enjoyed the podcast, if it resonated with you and touched you in your heart, friends will probably like it too. Be well, and I will see you next week on the next episode of Pickleball Therapy. Be well.